Hi everyone, welcome back to another Minecraft video. In this video, we'll be working on Redstone Computer 3rd edition. And first, we're going to figure out what we're going to put in this computer. So let's get started. Now, in Redstone Computer Edition 3, we're going to have the same basic features: a screen, the computer, and a control area. However, I'm going to do it differently. I'm not just going to have a control area where you have switches that control things on the screen. I'm going to experiment with command blocks. And first of all, before I start building in the screen here, which I'm not going to show you how to build it because it's very simple, just large screen, quartz outline. You don't need to put a truck on it, but that was there before I started my YouTube channel, so I'm just gonna leave it. Now, the first thing I'm gonna do is get some materials for what I'm actually gonna do. So here's what I want to work when I do something. So I have this basic keyboard. Yep, keyboard here. And if I press this button, that should turn on the non-existent computer here. This button should add the number of redstone lamps that are switched on. This button should act like the backspace deleting on lamps. And this is gonna be a little complicated, so I'm just gonna do a little bit of experimenting and I'll show you what I come up with. I really have no idea what I'm doing, but the first thing I did is made this pulse shortener. And when I press a button, redstone is activated for 1 tick exactly to this piston. So what I'm trying to do here is make 1-bit memory. And then I can tell how many lamps turned on in like storage over here. And then when I press this button, it'll tell the storage to delete 1 bit of on lamps. Am I even making sense? Probably not. And then the number of lamps here on will go down, going down just like this, not randomly. Like, in fact, in the battery on 2nd edition, which we just finished building, when the battery is discharging, the battery lights go from left to right, discharging. They don't go down back to the base of the battery as you expect them to. It's the same in this 1st edition computer here. However, if I figure out how to work 1-bit storage, we could have another battery and fuse box, or computer really, which will have a realistic battery icon. And it'll actually be a computer, it won't be just a battery and fuse box with switches that do things on the screen. It'll be a real computer where you can type words and things with a real QWERTY keyboard, and I have plans. It will be longer than 4 videos, I'm sure. When it's finished, it'll be amazing, and I can't wait to see how it turns out. Back to this 1-bit storage. And I've developed this simple system. I don't think I should call it 1-bit storage yet, but it takes 2 different buttons to operate. 1 button can turn it on, and only on, and when you press it again, it doesn't turn off. And then it requires a 2nd button to turn it off. The way it works is it's a really compact pulse shortener to 1 tick pulse. And when I activate it, it all happens very quickly. When it activates, this redstone here has 1 tick to get through to this piston, then it's stopped by this piston's here, the pulse shortener. And that gives this piston a really short pulse, so this is also a T flip-flop switch, I think. I can't remember the names of things, but I know how to build them. And it pushes this block of redstone out, which powers this redstone lamp. And then that activates this piston, which stops this button from activating the circuit at all. Then this button just tells this pistons to go out and grab the block and then go in. therefore turning the circuit off. Now I just need to implement this a few different times, where this one has to be on for the next one to turn on when this button is pressed again, and then when I press this button, this one goes off first, and then this one. So all we're really doing here is making something that as values are added, the next value turns on, and then that value goes off, but then these two. Eventually, I'm hoping to scale this up to a QWERTY keyboard, where a lot of command blocks tell different groups of redstone blocks to appear on the screen, making words and letters. But first, I need to make sure I can do this. So I'll make what I'm going to call realistic battery icon, and I'll show you that. And after a lot of work, I've made this mess. Some of it's functional, some of it's just still very ready to be wired up. And when I go over to here and press this button, two lights turn on. So after too much work and a lot of mess, I've made this. Some of it's not working yet, but if we go over to a keyboard here with 3 buttons, this button does nothing, but the middle button, when pressed, turns on one light, and then when pressed again, it turns on the second light. The only problem though is when I press the back button, both go out. So I need to figure out a piston. It's complicated to explain to me though, because I don't understand it myself. What I could do is some cleaning up, even though I've made a lot of this compact as possible. But what I need to do is figure out a system that when the back button is pressed, the pistons only let the most recent, in a way, block go out, not the entire thing. Because what I currently have is when I press a button once, it unlocks the next light to be switched on. The only problem is when I press the back button, that activates everything. Like, the on button activates everything when everything's unlocked, except that it doesn't affect the on of the state of the blocks, because that's not how this works, because this is already locked. Except I need to figure out how to lock the back button, so only allowing the most recent lamp to be turned off. So I'll figure that out, and when I do that, I'll show you. And after more work, I made this even bigger mess, but it works. The result is when I press the button, one goes on, button again, second one goes on, but when I press the back button, the most recent lamp goes out, and the other lamps remain unaffected. And then again, and this lamp doesn't flicker when I press the button that turns this lamp off, because way too many piston circuits stop and start the redstone as required. Now I'm going to try and make this not simple, because you can't make redstone simple for like this, but I'll make it more organized in a way so I can copy and paste it outwards, so I can get all 5 of these lamps lighting up at the right time, and then I'll put this redstone behind the screen. So I'll tidy this up, and then I'll get back to you. Well, I've made some progress. What happens now is when I set all the lights to be on. In this case, 3 are wired up. When I press the backspace button, that one goes out. And then, when that one goes out, but this one's already out, since there's no system to prevent power to going to the turn off light area, what happens is it pushes this piston out, which would grab the block if it was out here, but it pushes the block out, turning the light on for a small period of time, which then turns the light on and off, which does show up on the lights, as you've seen. next what I need to do now, which requires even more pistons, is make some kind of piston circuit, which then somehow activates the kill switch if it's the last light that's on. But if it's the second or third light that's off, then it doesn't need to be on. I'm 100% not making sense to you, but I'll show you the finished product. And it actually works. The only thing I added is this redstone torch thing, which, if the last one is off, then this piston circuit breaker is open. Yeah, it doesn't even make sense at all. But the end result from this mess is lights that go up smoothly, and then when it's time to start turning off, the other two that are off don't turn on when the next one is being turned off. So, big mess, but working lights. And this is a lot of redstone for 3 different lights. There's definitely a way to make this more compact, but I'm not doing it right now. And I kind of need to work on this, so I don't really want to make it too compact, so I don't know which system does what. And besides, I'm going to have a huge computer to shove it into, so there'll be plenty of redstone. But then again, I'm going to make a whole QWERTY keyboard eventually. I'm not sure when I'll do that, but I'll do that eventually. So, the only other thing I'm going to do before I pack the system up and put it back behind is I'm going to test how easy it is to copy and paste these individual light modules. And I'll see how that goes. And now I have 5 storage modules all in a row. I also made this third button do something, so now I can turn the system off or on. It's not really on or off, it's more like, do these buttons do something or not? When we press the buttons, well, these two at least, the 5 lights go out smoothly, and there's no issues with random flickering lights or too many lights turning off at once. And I've perfected this modular design, so I can just copy and paste a single module, and then wire up the lights as I see fit. And this has lots of uses, not just for realistic battery icons, but when we eventually make a QWERTY keyboard, this system will be able to tell how many letters have already been typed. So when I press a key, that command block for that specific location will activate, but only if so many lights are activated, or a different one will activate, and so on. So all of this just to mimic what happens when you press the key and then the cursor moves to the next area. So now with this working, what we can do is simplify it a bit, pack it up, and place it inside in an icon here. And since this is such a huge screen, we are actually going to keep the same sizes in second edition computer, because I want to have maximum screen space available for words. So what I'll do is I'll build a battery about the same capacity as second edition, and I'll place that probably next to the screen, because I'm going to build a small computer where all the computing will happen. And then this screen will be small, like 1 block thick, so all we'll have room for is redstone, and then the back of the screen, because command blocks will handle the redstone, not this bulky redstone dust setup for this truck here. Which does work, but it's pretty bulky and extends past the screen. So I'll build the battery and put this into a small battery icon. So I did what I said I would, build a battery and put the battery icon things into the computer. And I built a box where the computer's gonna go, but I don't think it's going to be big enough for all the features I'm going to have. So actually, here's an overview of all the features I'm going to put in this computer. First, I'm going to need a stack of letters in a similar font and size. And those are going to be made out of redstone blocks. They can be stacked right next to each other, because here's how the system's going to work. I'm going to have all the letters in a small row, all packed tightly together. And there's going to be a bunch of command blocks over here that, first of all, let's say I press the S key on my keyboard here, which doesn't exist yet because I haven't built it. First, that signal will be transmitted into the computer, and then the computer would know which position on the screen that letter is going to go. It will send out a call to the command block for the S key, or the S letter, which will then clone that letter from wherever it's stored here to the temporary spot here. Then another command block for that location on the screen will clone whatever is here onto the screen, and then this letter here will then be cleared in preparation for another letter. And then Backspace can work in a similar way where it deletes the letter from wherever it is on the screen, but only where it is on the screen, not everything else. So I'm pretty much learning about this function before I scale it up so I can type words and letters on the screen. Now, speaking of this battery, it's a little wider than the other models I have, and it has exactly 5 levels. This is because I have 5 squares here. I could add more, but I'm not going to, because I've ran out of room. Oh, I probably could squeeze one in here, but whatever. Now, the only thing left to do before this battery controls an icon on the screen is, first, I need to convert whether the battery is on or not, the state, into a pulse, which controls, as we've shown you before, these 5 lights with this setup. So after quite a few different designs, I've came up with this compact, easy to replicate design. And when I shut off power to this system, mimicking this level running out of power, a cell turns off. And when I give it power again, the cell turns back on. I just need to copy and paste this 4 more times. So a bit of an update. I've done my best to wire up the systems, and I had the battery charging, but I kept breaking it, so there's a lot of black spots in the repeater system. And every now and again, oh, here we go. It's been charging up and then discharging according to these icons. So something's working. Well, something's happening. I've started to use the clone command, and it actually works. It just clones this battery icon outline and puts it over here. The way this will work on the computer is I'll have a copy of the battery outline about here somewhere, and then command blocks located right about here will clone it to the small portion of the screen down here. I might scale up a bit, but I can do whatever I want because it doesn't really matter the redstone. It just matters I can clone a bunch of redstone blocks to a certain location. And one thing I'm going to do before I forget, I just have that redstone block there, is a real power source. So I'm trying to mimic an actual computer, which means the power supply cable would plug into the computer about here somewhere. And I'm just going to do a fictional plug, because all it has to be is just a redstone line going to another fictional plug. Now, I'm not going to do this on camera. If you want to know how to build something like this, go check out part 1 of the Redstone Computer 2nd edition, because I go into detail on a lot of things like this battery that I didn't go into detail here because I'm going into detail on other things, which I didn't do in the other computer, like the command blocks, and I'm going to clone different things on the screen. So I'm going to build this cord and another fictional plug, and then I'll show you this clone stuff. Alright, plug built, and I also made a small switch mimicking the on button for the power supply in the computer. And note, the power supply in this computer is actually this battery, but it's technically related to power, so I'm leaving it. The power from the plug is now what powers the battery, not that redstone block. You may notice that even though the battery is fully charged up, only one of the 5 cells is on. That's because there's been a lot of issues with interruptions in the power in the battery. A lot of groups of decharged redstone appears that then charge up again. And now it's all charged up. If I were to charge it all down and then let it charge up again, it should probably be at 5 cells, but I'm not sure. So what I'm going to do now is, first of all, I need to translate on or off to a pulse, similar to this system here. Because it's going to be 2 command blocks for each cell, and one's going to be place redstone blocks here, and the other one in the same cell is going to be remove those redstone blocks. And the reason I can't just do a simple thing with the battery is because I need this circuit to make the battery realistic, because otherwise I would be making a repeat of Redstone Computer 2nd edition, but with command blocks and a thin screen. So I already have the world's most basic knowledge of the clone command, and I haven't even made this block remove the outline because I've been using World Edit to remove the outline. Anyway, now I'm going to figure out how to translate this system into cloning the battery icon from here onto the screen. So I'll go and do that, and then we can start working on these command blocks and putting stuff on the screen as well. So this is the battery icon I decided to stick with. It's bigger than that one because I just wanted to have it bigger, because I had a huge screen. Now there are 2 ways I could place the battery icon and cells on the screen. I could have the command blocks place the blocks here, and then one command block cloned whatever was here onto the screen. But the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to have battery icon here, command blocks that put the battery icon on or off the screen, and then each of these command blocks places a group of redstone blocks directly on the screen. And I still have to figure out a master screen switch off command block, but for now I'm just going to go with this. So I'll make a bunch of cloning command blocks, then we'll test the battery. And that has been done. There are 2 command blocks. The first one clones it. There. The second one removes that outline, and any cells that might be with it from the screen. So let's say you don't want the command blocks to output into the chat. Simple. / game rule. Command block output, false. Now when you go to use a command block, it doesn't output in the chat, but it still does what it's meant to do. And for all these 5 cells that clone this redstone blocks here onto that outline, they're going to clone from the same thing, because it is the same thing they're cloning, just different locations. Now I actually need to go ahead and do that, so I'll do that. And the cells can also be cloned now. I set it up here so I could easily test it. And when I press a button, a cell appears, and this command block to the right of it is to make it disappear. And the other 4 sets of command blocks are for the same thing, but for other cells. And to copy and paste all this code into those command blocks. Okay, and with all those command blocks coded, we can now mimic what would happen if the battery slowly discharged. By placing redstone torch. Notice the battery has fully discharged, and so have all the cells. And if we place a torch here without touching it, based on the way it works, the battery will just keep charging. So watch this. So all the cells have been wired up correctly, and the only thing, and these 2 command blocks will be useful when I eventually make a switch that can shut down the computer entirely. Now what I'm going to do is cut the power and then give you a time lapse, including a view of these cells and the battery, of everything discharging. Due to a lack of cut means power switch, I'm just going to use the switch here. With the power to the battery cut off, I hope you enjoy this time lapse. with the battery fully discharged, we can go ahead and flip the switch on the power supply, charging it up again. So I'll leave this running for another however many minutes it takes to charge up, and then that'll be it for this video. And now the battery is fully charged up. I'm not sure how long it took to charge up, but I will put a text box on screen. And that's going to be it for this episode. In the next episode, we'll look more into making a keyboard and starting work on the letter cloning system. So I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!